It's probably the only time since I've retired that I've felt that adrenaline kind of coming close to what it was back in the day when I was actually on the tour.
Sport to me is something that brings everybody together. It's people and teams pushing themselves to the limit in pursuit of a common goal. And I think it inspires both individuals and communities and countries.
Is unpredictable. The thing that people love about live sports is that they can come to a match or a game and they don't know what's going to happen at the end. And I think that that's one thing that the NSL really stands for, is the unpredictability and increasing the unpredictability of squash, because I think squash is a sport that has potentially fallen flat in the past because the matches become too predictable and it becomes boring for people to watch.
Probably my favorite thing about the NSL and what makes it so different from traditional squash on the PSA and everywhere else is that there's so much uncertainty. You never know what's going to happen next. At any point, your opponent can change. The time at which you're playing is changing. You can't just go in with the plan as you normally do. And I think not only does it make the NSL matches so exciting, but that's what makes sports so incredible.
A lot has to go right for a traditional squash match to be a big success. One of the main things is that the two players have to be close and level, and that the score has to be close. The players have to be playing fairly. There has to be a nice crowd. There has to be good energy there. That was one of the reasons why we designed the format as we did, because there are a lot of things that have to go right in order for you to have one of those best 10 matches of the year. And that feeling that everyone gets when you see a great squash match, you can put it in a bottle. And I think that's what we started to think about. How should you make a match?
Sports speaks a universal language. It turns strangers into teammates, neighborhoods into nations, it knocks down barriers, and lifts us all to the very edge of our seats. Now, for the first time ever, it's squash's turn to show the world all the excitement, all the unpredictability, and a true team concept. The rush, the heartbeat, the impossible comeback. After all, that's why we're all here.
The way we came up with the NSL format was Timmy and I going and observing other sports that we are fans of and taking things from those sports and seeing how they could potentially be used in squash.
Taking bits and pieces of each of those leagues that everyone loves is a recipe for success. We immediately thought of, how do we bring the crowd back when there's a dip in energy? So we immediately thought of substitutions as the first way to do that. If a player had a mismatch or someone was winning a lot, you just bring them off and you bring a new teammate on, and it immediately brings the crowd back.
Timmy, big hockey fan, he's big Boston Bruins fan, and he said, well, why don't we take the power play from hockey and put a power play in squash? That was where the power play came from.
The next thing we thought of, I think that was really important, was the idea of periods or legs, where let's say there's a blowout and the team is up 30 points to 5. At the end of the period, it'll go back to 0-0 for the second period, and then one team will have won the period.
Actually, the idea that we got for the different point values for periods came from events like the Ryder Cup and the Laver Cup in tennis, where each day you play, the matches get increasingly more valuable. These are all rules and formats that fans can relate with, and fans can see the parallels between these other sports and squash now.
That is one of the special things about the National Squash Leagues. It's not necessarily the level of squash that is the draw, even though we do have a great level of squash. It's more about what is the score, how much time is left, who's on court. And I think adding all those variables, it's something you just can't replicate in traditional squash.
It's funny because in the matches, like, we haven't really thought about like actual squash tactics. We've talked about like, who are we putting in first? Who are we subbing in? Who's going to use the power play? And like, nothing's ever like, oh, hit to the back right.
Having played it myself a couple of times now, it's certainly the closest I've felt since I've been retired to that level of adrenaline and excitement and the sort of pressure on each rally and things like that. even though you just played an exhibition match at the end of the day.
Time defines the NSL format. The first 2 periods, worth a point apiece, are 20 minutes each, while the crucial 30-minute third period is worth 2 points. The live clock drives the pace. When it hits 0, the period ends.
If a team is up 2-0 in periods and they lose the third, which is worth 2 points, you'll go to a shootout and you've got to order your players 1 through 3. And you don't know what order the other team is picking their players either. And then they match up and they play 1 point each, and that's the first team to 3 points wins the match. It's very similar to penalty kicks in soccer, where the other team doesn't know who you're sending out, but you send out a player and all the heat is on them. Everybody in the arena is stopped, and it's just one moment where it's just a climax. That is where the NSL has had its craziest matches. They've been shootouts. I think opening day last season in particular stands out to me, where you had Philadelphia and New York going down all the way to the wire, where if you think about it, the team that was down 2-0, they were on the brink of defeat. And now they're in a moment where 3 points, if they win, determines the whole match. So I think we've seen where the crowds really love the shootout.
And he hits the nick. And look at that celebration. Andrew Douglas yet again.
In the NSL format, I definitely felt that pressure of the countdown timer, keeping a close eye on the clock. There's a lot of things going on. So you've got teammates, you've got different things going on in each period. So that's in the back of your mind, power plays and that I definitely felt the countdown. That was the biggest thing for me, and feeling the pressure to win points in a certain amount of time.
Substitutions make this a true team game. In this format, the lineup is live, allowing coaches to reshape their strategies in real time.
Substitutions in the NSL work the same as any other sport. If your team elects to make a substitution, the player on the court will come off and sit on the bench, and a player from the bench will then go on to play in place of them. You don't have unlimited substitutions, so your coach has to use these wisely at the right time to try and create different matchups on court that are favorable for your team.
You may have to change your strategy within 2 minutes of one of the periods starting, and then all of a sudden it's like you are thinking every single rally. You are on your seat just going, okay, we'll give him 1 more rally. Oh, actually, no, he's doing well. Okay, we'll give him 2 more rallies. Or it was like, get off now.
I never thought that squash can be played in a team spirit, I would say. So when I played my first match in NSL, I was like, actually, not because, let's say, on paper, my ranking was better than the other guys, and by me playing more is better for the team. Actually, it was so tactical in a way, and you understood that the more you played it.
Yeah, it's very different from traditional format of a squash match. Of course,
you're able to sit on the bench with your teammates and build this camaraderie that you normally wouldn't have. You're kind of living and playing each point with them. You're watching them play, and you have to be ready at any moment to warm up and get on court and sort of take over. It's kind of building this trust with everybody and this chemistry. You're just doing it all together, and it's a great thing.
Of course, used to playing team squash, but your individual match still counts. We don't have that cumulative total ever in anything else, especially when I've played a couple of the Legends matches and you've got the unlimited subs. That sort of team aspect of playing a few rallies, subbing off, coming on, can sort of make it a little bit intense. Probably the biggest thing for me is when you get to the end of each period as well and the scores are tight. That's when, I guess, the tactics come in. You try not to get distracted by the score, but of course you're human and the score is always playing on your mind, and you can maybe make some interesting decisions, shall we say, based on the score rather than how you should be structuring a normal rally.
The power play, widely regarded as the NSL's signature rule, tosses caution to the wind. Call it at the right time with the right player, and the results could turn a match straight on its head.
Obviously, we are sports fans to our core, so we've watched all the major leagues, and I think, one of the big things about NSL is the power play. And if you think NHL, there's no better moment during an NHL game than after a penalty. And the whole crowd just goes nuts, and you know that you're going to have 2 minutes where your team is going to be able to dominate the other team. And you can even have 2 guys off the ice in NHL. And the whole crowd for 2 minutes is basically on their feet.
A match can hinge on a single power play. If a player is able to get a really successful power play, then that could change the momentum of an entire period. So I think a lot of matches are decided on how well coaches are able to use those power plays in the right moments with the right players, with the right matchups on court.
You're throwing somebody else on there like, okay, I'm going to get you to do the power play. You want to go on court and you do the power play. I want you to go for every single shot you can do.
Like, incentivizes a lot of players to actually go for quick points, try like different tactics, serve to the middle, serve quick, try like 2-shot combinations to go for the nick, and just opens up a completely new like brand of squash that never been seen before.
Come on, like you call the power play and it's just let me shoot everything that I get. You serve, take this ball down. Like I just think everything is really well thought. The number of points that we get per period, 1-1, and even if you win the first 2, you still got to play the third one very hard.
The NSL isn't on TV because we're not cool enough yet. We're working on it. You know, I think the NSL will be on TV someday.
Like Fernando once said, our goal isn't to be on ESPN3, it's to be on ESPN1. So we have big aspirations for the league. We hope it will be on TV eventually, and we're taking the steps to bring it there. I think our format is very well suited for TV, being a timed match that has a finite start and end time, so it can be easily packaged for TV in the future, and we're taking the steps to get it there.
Coming up on episode 3, the inaugural exhibition.
Fernando said, well, why don't we do an exhibition event in Louisville at my home club?
Pretty difficult to convince players to come and play a match in a format they've never heard of, travel to a place that they've never been to.
So Timmy and I got 2 teams together.
We weren't sure whether we were even going to keep that format. And for some reason or another, Spencer and I just did not pull it off. This was completely hip firing. We had no idea what was going to happen.
Second backup format was way more conservative than this new scoring format that we had brainstormed.
We had no idea how this was going to run. It was all conceptual to that point.